Hello, welcome back. We are now starting topic 6, which is all about quadrilaterals and other polygons. So we're looking at four-sided shapes, but we're also looking a little bit at shapes of other side quantities as well. So today we're going to do 6.1. We have two objectives for today. We're going to show that the sum of the exterior angles of a polygon is 360 degrees, and then use that to solve problems. And then we're going to show that the sum of the interior angles of a polygon is the product of 180 degrees and 2 less than the number of sides. And then we're going to use that to solve problems. So I know that that sounds like crazy, right? But we have some new vocabulary. We have some theorems that we're going to go through first, and then I think you'll find it's not as scary as it looks. So let's drop down to the back of our packet where we can look at our new vocabulary and then our theorems as well. Okay, so here's our page with all of our terms on it. The first term that we're going to look at is interior angle. So these are angles of a polygon that are inside, right? So they're on the inside of the polygon, and they're on each vertex. So like each of these angles right here are interior angles. Okay? So then exterior angle would be the same idea, but notice, right, this red one is the interior angle, and then exterior angle is if I extend this line out, right, I have created an exterior angle. So notice that every single one of these lines, these sides have been extended out, and it creates this exterior angle right here. Okay, so that's what we're looking at when we say exterior angle. You might have to draw, right, those lines extending out, but that's what creates the exterior angle. The other two terms that we're going to look at today is convex and concave polygons. So a convex polygon is a polygon that all the vertices are going outward. So notice this vertice points out, right? Every single one of these vertices is pointing out. So therefore, this is a convex polygon. If any of the vertices point in, like this guy right here, that's what makes it a concave polygon. So think of a cave as like collapsing in. Concave polygons have this vertex that is going into the polygon. That's it for our four terms. We do, though, also have two theorems. So if we keep going down to our theorems and postulates page, and here it is, we do have two theorems that we are going to look at today. The first one is the polygon interior angle sum theorem. So this has to do with angles that are inside the polygon, right? So it says the sum of the measure of the interior angles of a convex. This is important. It has to be convex. Sum means add. So I'm adding up all the angles, right? So if I add up every single one of these angles, and again, this is a convex polygon because every vertex is pointing outwards. So what we do is we use this formula right here. 180 times n minus 2, where n is the number of sides of the polygon. Okay, so if we look at this polygon right here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. So n is 5, because in this example, I have 5 sides. Okay, so if I wanted to find the sum of these, if I add up a plus b plus c plus d plus e, okay, I could do 180 times n minus 2. Well, 180, and I just told you that n is 5, right? We just found that out. So this is 180 times 3, which is equal to 540 degrees. So if I add up angle A plus angle B plus angle C plus angle D plus angle E. If I add up all of those angles, it will equal 540 degrees. Now, that does not tell me what angle A is. It doesn't tell me what angle C is, right? It just says if I add them all up, I will get 540. And then that n changes depending on the number of sides, right? So if I had a triangle that has 3 sides, n would be 3, right? If I have a rectangle with 4 sides, n would be 4, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this just tells you the sum of all the angles on the inside added up. Okay, the next theorem is the Polygon exterior angle theorem. So this is all about exterior angles. Again, it has to be a convex polygon. Notice that all of these vertices are pointing out. So it has to be convex. This doesn't work for concave. Okay, so the sum of the exterior angles is 360 every single time, no matter how many sides the polygon has. If it is a convex polygon, the exterior angles add to 360. So here, angle 1 plus angle 2 plus angle 3 plus angle 4. If I add them all up, I'm going to get 360 degrees, no matter what. And so those are really the two theorems that we're going to be looking at today, is figuring out how many, right, what's the sum of this, of the interior angles of this shape, or what's the sum of the exterior angles of this shape, or things like that. So let's go back to the start of 6.1 and use these theorems and formulas to help us solve some of these problems. Okay, so our first example here says, how does the number of sides of a convex polygon n relate to the sum of measures of its interior angles? Well, let's look. If I draw a 3-sided polygon, which is a triangle, right? So n is 3, because it's a triangle. And let's say it's an equilateral triangle, and I'm just a really bad artist, okay? So that would mean this is 60, this is 60, and this is 60. So the sum of all 3 angles is 60 plus 60 plus 60, which is 180, right? What about if I have, let's say, a square? And I know it's a square because it has these 90-degree angles, right? So in this case, n is 4. The number of sides is 4. Well, I know that all 4 angles are 90 degrees, so 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 90 is 360. All right, now is where my drawing skills become subpar. Okay, so now let's draw a pentagon. Okay, that's not my worst attempt at a pentagon. And it's going to be a regular pentagon. Let's say that all 5 sides are the same. So in this case, n is 5. And I'll just tell you that this is 108. And if that's 108, all of these angles are also 108 because it's a regular pentagon. And regular pentagons, what that means is all the angles are the same and all the sides are the same. So all the sides are the same because of these tick marks. All the angles are the same because it's a regular shape. So if I add that up, I get that the sum of all 5 of those angles is 540. And I can keep going. Let's see how poorly Miss G can draw a hexagon. Pretty poorly, that's okay. And let's call this again a regular hexagon, even though I can't draw. Okay, so here n is 6, right? Now the number of sides is 6. And because it's a regular hexagon, all the angles are the same. And in this case, the angles are 120. So if I add up all of those angles, I get 720 degrees. So if we notice, I am increasing by 180 every single time. I'm adding 180, adding 180, adding 180, and this pattern continues on. Okay, so if I wanted to find what the sum was for like something with 10 sides, I could just keep adding 180, but I might get lost. Like, what if I want to find the sum of 100 sides, right? What do I want to keep adding 180 100 times? No. So that's where this little formula helps us, okay? So the 180 times n minus 2. So then n is the number of sides. So however many sides you have, you subtract 2, and then you multiply 180, and that will be the sum of the interior angles. So we're going to try it right now. So let's scroll down. We're actually not going to do this, try it. But we're going to do B together, and then you guys are going to try this one. So it says, what is the interior sum for a convex octagon? So octagon, how many sides does an octagon have? And hopefully we say 8, right? So n is 8. So then all I'm going to do is take my 180 times n minus 2. But I know now that n is 8. So 180 times 8 minus 2 gets me 180 times 6, which is 1080 degrees. So a convex octagon, if I add up all of the sides on the all of the angles on the inside, it will add up to 1080 degrees. It doesn't tell me what each angle is, it just tells me the sum. Go ahead and try this one real quick. Says find the sum of the interior angles of the polygon. So this is the polygon. You will have to find out how many sides it has, and then use your equation to find the sum. When you're ready to go over it, go ahead and just hit play on the video. Okay, so hopefully you looked at this one. If we counted 6, 7, 8, 9, we found that n was 9. There's 9 sides here. It's what we call a nonagon. So I have 180 times n minus 2. So n now in this problem is 9, which gets me 180 times 7, which is 1260 degrees. So the sum of all of those angles added up, right? This one plus this one, right? If I add up all of these angles, I will get 1260 degrees. So hopefully that makes sense. That's how we use that equation. Okay, let's look at a real world problem with how we might use this. Okay, so here we have example 2 where it says, Jenna is building a corner cabinet to fit in a rectangular room. If she builds it with the angles shown below, how can she determine whether the cabinet will fit? So I want to know what is this angle right here, because if this angle, right, if this angle is 90, it's going to fit in the corner of her rectangular room. But if it's not 90, it won't fit in the corner of her room. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this probably really poorly, okay, but I'm going to draw this from the top. So this is looking down from the top of the cabinet, okay, where I know that this is 90. I know that this is 90 because it gave it to me, right? I don't know this. This is X. That's what I'm trying to find. And then I know that this is 135 and this is 135. Okay, so I don't know what X is, but I should be able to find what the sum is, right? What the total of all these angles added up is. So in this case, n is 5. This is a 5-sided shape. So since n is 5, I can find the sum, right? So the sum of n is 5 is 180 times 5 minus 2, which is 180 times 3. We've already done it, and that's 540. So the sum here is going to be 540 degrees. That means if I add up all 5 of these angles, I will get 540. So that tells me that x plus 90 plus 90 plus 135 plus 135, right? If I add up all 5 angles, it will equal 540. So let's go ahead and do this, right? If I add up all of these guys, we get x plus 90 plus 90 plus 135 plus 135 is 450. And that equals 540. So I subtract 450 from both sides, and I get x is equal to 90. So since x is 90, right, this is 90, this will fit in her rectangular room, right? Because a rectangular is 90 degrees, so this cabinet will fit in the corner. So yes, don't forget to answer the question, right? The cabinet will fit in the corner, of her room. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and try it here? We have 2 questions. The first one is, what is the interior angle sum of a 17 gon? So I want you to go ahead and try A, and then when you're ready to go over A, go ahead and hit play on the video and we'll go over it, and then we're gonna do B together. All right, so let's look at A. Hopefully you guys have tried this. What is the interior angle sum of a 17 gon? A 17 gon just means I have 17 sides, which tells me n is 17. So I'm going to do 180 times n minus 2. Well, in this case, n is 17, so I have 17 minus 2. That looks like times. There we go. So 180 times 15 is 2,700 degrees. So that is the sum of all of the angles of a shape that has 17 sides. Okay, part B I wanted to go over together because we kind of have to modify this equation a little bit. It says each angle of a regular n-gon measures 172.8 degrees. How many sides does it have? So we have to think about this. First of all, a regular n-gon means that every single angle is the same, and that's really important, okay? So I know that I have this equation, right? 180 times n minus 2. That gets me the sum, okay? That gets me the sum of all of the angles added up, but I don't know how many angles there are. However, I do know that the sum is 172.8 times however many sides there are, right? So if I have a shape that has multiple sides, oh gosh, right? Every single one of those little angles is 172.8. So it's 172.8 times however many sides there are. And so that is what's going to help me, right? This modification right here is what's going to help me solve this problem. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute. I have 180 times n, which is 180n. And then 180 times negative 2 is negative 360. And that equals 172.8n, right? Because times n is just n. Okay, so we can subtract 180n, subtract 180n. I'm just solving. I'm getting all my like terms on one side. So I have negative 360 equals negative 7.8. 7.2n. I'm trying to solve for n. I want to know how many sides does it have. So negative 7.2, I'm going to divide by both sides. And I get n equals 50. So there are 50 sides to this shape. So wow, that is not how you spell anything. Sides. Okay, so if I have a 50-sided shape where all of the sides are the same length, each angle on the inside will be 172.8 degrees. Okay, one more try it here that I want you guys to do. So go ahead and pause the video and give this one a try. And then when you're ready to go over it, hit play. Okay, so hopefully you gave this one a shot. It says a school zone traffic sign outside of your school building have 3 right angles. So there's a right angle, there's a right angle, and I'm assuming that one's the right angle as well. Okay, so these are all 90, right? Because they're right angles. Okay, and the other 2 angles are congruent. So this one, I don't know what it is, but I can call it X. And then this one is also X because they're the same. They're congruent. Find the measure of the other 2 interior angles. So I want to know what is X, basically. So in this case, how many sides does it have? It has 5 sides, which means that the sum of all of the sides, again, is 540 degrees. So if I add this all up, 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus X is 540. Right? So 90 plus 90 plus 90 is 270. X plus X is 2X, and that equals 540. So I'm just solving. Okay, we can subtract 270 to the other side. That leaves me 2X is equal to 270. 540 minus 270 is 270. Divide by 2, divide by 2. And I get X is equal to 135 degrees. So that is the measure of the other 2 interior angles. These are both 135 degrees. And I'm able to come up with that because I know what the sum of all 5 of them should be. Okay, so hopefully we feel okay about finding the sum of interior angles and using that to solve problems. What we're going to do now is we're going to switch gears and we're going to start looking at exterior angles. So example 3 here says, what is the sum of the exterior angle measures of a convex polygon? So we're going to do something really similar to what we did on example 1 here. And I'm going to draw my equilateral triangle again, so 60, 60, and 60. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the lines. So I'm going to extend it out this way, right? So if I go out to the left, then this one needs to go out to the left, and then this one needs to go like so. And I'm going to ask myself, I'm going to switch colors here, what is this angle? Now notice that 60 and this purple angle make a straight line. And a straight line is 180 degrees, right? So that tells me that this has to be 120. Because 120 and 60 add to 180. Same thing here. This has to be 120 because they make a straight line. And same thing here. So when I'm asked what the sum of these angles are, 120 plus 120 plus 120 is 360 degrees. Okay. If I can do it again, right? So let's look at a square. Again, right? Square has all of these right angles, and all of the sides are the same length. There's my square. Okay, and if I extend these lines out, the angles formed, in this case, have to add to 180. So 90 and 90 are 180, and this is also 90, right? These have to be 90 because they have to add to 180. So that tells me that my sum is 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 90, which is 360. And then last one, my second attempt at drawing a pentagon. That was pretty dang good. So regular pentagon, right? This side on the inside is 108. All of these are 108. I'm not going to write it on every single one. Okay, but they're all 108. So I can go up this way, right? So if I extend out that way, extend out this way, here, here, and here. And so again, what I've done is I've created these straight lines where this purple angle and 108 have to add to 180. So 108 or 180 minus 108 is 72. So that angle right there has to be 72, which means this angle has to be 72. And this one has to be 72, right? Because they're all 108 on the inside. So they all have to be 108 on the outside. Or sorry, 72 on the outside. So again, then my sum is 72 plus 72 plus 72 plus 72 plus 72, which I don't know if you've picked up on it, is also 360. So it doesn't matter how many sides this has. That sum, if I add up all the exterior angles, I'm going to get 360. So here on this try it says, what is the sum of the exterior angle measures of a convex 17gon? So here's a shape that has 17 sides. I have no idea what the angles are, but it doesn't matter because the sum of the exterior angles is going to be 360 degrees, regardless of how many sides it has or what the shape looks like. As long as it is convex, the exterior angles will add up to 360 degrees. So let's use that fact to help us figure out some problems here. So let's look at example 4. Only a couple more here. Okay, so example 4 says, suppose that angle 1 and angle 3 are the same, or congruent, okay? The measure of angle 1 is 3x. So I'm going to label it 3x, right? We should always label things as we're given. And I know that 1 and 3 are the same, so I can go ahead and label 3 3x as well. The measure of angle 2 is 2x. What is the measure of each exterior angle? Okay, so let's look. I know 1, 2, and 3 are exterior angles. 4 and 5 are also exterior angles, but I don't know anything about them except I know that the interior angle is 90, which means the exterior angle also has to be 90. Okay, so that means if I add up all of my exterior angles, I will get 90 degrees. So, wow, that's not true. If I add up all of my exterior angles, I will get 360 degrees. There we go. So I'm just going to start adding them up. I have 3x plus 3x plus 2x plus 90 plus 90, and I know that the whole thing is going to equal 360. So now it's just something that I can solve for. 3x plus 3x plus 2x is 8x. 90 plus 90 is 180. And I'm just going to solve. I'm going to subtract 180. So I get 8x is equal to 180. Divide by 8, divide by 8. And I'm going to get x is equal to 22.5. Okay? But that's not what it's asking me to find, right? It wants me to find what is the measure of angle 1. What is the measure of angle 2? Right? What is the measure of angle 3? What is the measure of angle 4? And what is the measure of angle 5, right? It wants me to find each of those. Well, 4 and 5 I know what they are already, right? They're both 90 degrees. So that's easy. Angle 1 is 3 times x. Well, x is 22.5. So 22.5 times 3 is 67.5. And if 1 and 3 are the same, that means that angle 3 is also 67.5 degrees, right? And then the measure of angle 2 is 2 times x. Well, 22.5 times 2 is 45 degrees. So the question was asking me, what is the measure of each exterior angle? So I had to, once I actually found x, I had to then go and actually plug it back in to figure out what the angles were. All right, so we have a try it here. I really want you guys to give it a shot and see how it goes. And then when you're ready to go over it, or if we get stuck or anything like that, just go ahead and hit play and we can go over it on the video. All right, so hopefully you guys were able to try this one. If not, you can always go ahead and pause the video again to try it. I really did want you to see if you could figure this out. So let's look at it. It says 1, 3, 4, and 6 are all the same. So they're all congruent. And then 2 and 5 are congruent as well. It says measure of angle 3 is the measure of angle 2 plus 30. Okay, which means this is the measure of angle 2 plus 30, right? And this is the measure of angle 2 plus 30. And I don't really like the way that this is working because I have to write the measure of angle 2 a lot and it just looks messy. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to let angle 2 be x. And if 2 is x, then 5 is also x, right? Because those are the same. So if the measure of angle 2 is x, then right here, instead of the measure of angle 2 plus 30, I can call it x plus 30. So that means that I can plug in x plus 30 for these, and it just looks a little bit better. It's a little bit neater. It's a little bit easier to look at, okay? And the question is saying, what's the measure of angle 4? Well, in order to know the measure of angle 4, I need to know what x is. So let's solve for x. All of these guys are exterior angles, and I know that they're all going to add up to 360. Okay, so I can write this all out, or let's just count up the x's. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 x's. So 6x plus I have 4 30s. So that's 120. So I'm just kind of condensing that equation a little bit. Okay, so I added up all of my angles there, and we're going to solve. So minus 120. That leaves me 6x is equal to 240. So x is equal to 40 after I divide by 6. And that's great, but that's not asking me what the problem is, right? The problem is asking the measure of angle 4. Well, the measure of angle 4 is x plus 30. Do I not know what x is now, right? 40 plus 30, because x is 40. So I get that the measure of angle 4 is equal to 70 degrees. And voila. So sometimes you will have to do some extra stuff before you can actually solve for what it is that it's asking you to solve for. So like here, I had to solve for x first and then go back and plug it in to figure out the rest. Okay, let's look at example 5, which is our last example here. It says, what are the measures of the interior angle of the pentagon? So looking at this, it says interior angles. Okay, and I want to know what each angle is. Do you see that? It says, what are the measures of each angle? Well, I know this one's 90. So we can start there, right? Okay, so looking at this, I know what the sum is because there's, again, 5 sides. So that tells me that the sum is going to be 540. Remember, if the sides are different, right? If I have 6 sides, the sum is going to be different. If I have 8 sides, the sum is going to be different. So just make sure that you're paying attention to how many sides there is. It's not always going to be 540. So this tells me that if I add up all my angles, so 3x plus 4 plus 7x minus 3 plus 6x plus 12 plus 90 plus 6x minus 3. So I'm adding them all up, and it should equal 540. So I'm going to combine like terms. 3x plus 7x is 10x, plus 6x is 16x, plus another 6x is 22x. I almost said 24. So 22x. Then I have 4 minus 3 is 1, plus 12 is 13, plus 90 is 103, minus 3 is 100. So plus 100 equals 540. So I'm just combining my like terms. Let's subtract 100 from both sides. 22x is equal to 440. Divide by 22, and I get x is equal to 20. That's great, but remember that's not what the question's asking. The question is asking what are the measures of each angle. So I need to plug this back in. 3 times 20 is 60, plus 4 is 64. So this angle is 64 degrees. Okay. 6 times 20 is 120, minus 3 is 117. So this one's 117. I already know this is 90. 6 times 20 is 120, plus 12 is 132. And 7 times 20 is 140, minus 3 is 137. So there I was able to find all of the angles of this shape. All right. The last one I want you guys to try. Again, it's a little tricky, but I think you can do it. It tells you that it's at 100gon, which means the n is 100. So I think you would be able to find the sum there using your equation. Okay, and then it also tells you what each angle is. So, and then it just wants you to solve for x. So try it, hit pause on the video. If you get stuck, you can always hit play, we can go over it, but I do really want you to try it and think about it here. Okay, so hopefully we at least got the sum, right, which would be 180 times 100 minus 2. So the sum of all of the angles is 17,640 degrees. It's a lot, right? Okay, so I know that the total of all the angles added up is 17,640. And I know that each individual angle is 3x plus 26.4, right? So if I have this 100gon, I'm going to draw it big even though, right? So here's my 100gon, blah, blah, blah. Each of these angles on the inside is 3x plus 26.4. So then the question is, how many of these angles do I have to get to the total, right? And so if I have 100 sides, then I have 100 of these angles. So 100 of these angles, if I multiply 100 by whatever each individual angle is, I should get the total sum, which is 17,640. Right? I should get the total sum. And then now this is an equation that I can solve for x. So I'm actually going to divide by 100 here. So that leaves me 3x plus 26.4. Maybe I shouldn't have done it that way. It's going to give me a decimal. That's okay. So 176.4. Okay. Then I'm going to subtract my 26.4. which gives me 3x equals 150. Divide by 3, and I get x is equal to 50. So that is the value of x. In this case, x doesn't represent necessarily anything except the value that makes this equation work. So x is not the number of sides or the angle, right? This is not 50 degrees or anything like that. It's just the value that makes this equation work. Okay, that's it for 6-1, you guys. Nice job. If you have any questions, make sure that you reach out to your teacher, get the help you need, advocate for yourself. And I will talk to you soon, and we'll go over 6-2 next time.